Have you ever just stood there looking at your grocery bill or your rent statement and thought to yourself, how is everything so expensive? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today we're diving deep into the cost of living crisis, that gut feeling that your paycheck just doesn't go as far as it used to, and what all that financial anxiety really means for us, our families, and even our politics. So let's get into it.
You know, this quote from someone in Utah, it just hits you, right? It gets right to the heart of the matter. $7,000 a month just to get by. And they're quick to say this isn't about some lavish lifestyle. We're talking about the mortgage, the car, the food, the utilities. It's a number that sounds absolutely staggering, but for millions of people, it's the reality. It feels like you're working harder than ever just to stay in the same place.
So that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How did we get here? Because this didn't just happen overnight. This is a story that's been decades in the making. It's about our paychecks, about what that money can actually buy, and about this growing, nagging disconnect between the official story we hear about the economy and the reality we're all living every single day.
But before we jump into all the big economic numbers and charts, I want to start with the real-world impact. Let's start with the human cost, because behind every single one of these statistics is a personal story of someone just trying to make it all work.
And when you look at these examples, you see just how real and widespread this struggle is. I mean, think about this. A professional chef. We're talking 2 decades of experience working in James Beard Award-winning restaurants, and he can't find a job. Or another person who had to move from San Diego, literally 2 blocks across the border into Mexico, just to be able to afford a studio apartment. And get this, a recent survey found that more than a quarter of mothers are now relying on their own parents for financial help. And that huge spike in credit card debt, that's a massive red flag, that people are turning to debt just to cover the basics.
So when you hear stories like that, you have to ask yourself, what is going on with the broader economy? And this, right here, is where we find this enormous gap between the official numbers and what people are actually experiencing in their lives.
Okay, this chart from the Economic Policy Institute is, well, it's just stunning. Take a look. Since 1979, the annual wages for the top 1% have shot up by 138%. Now, for the bottom 90% of Americans, that's pretty much everybody else, wages have only grown by 15%. Not per year, 15% over more than 4 decades. So the key thing to realize here is this isn't just about the inflation we've seen recently. This is about the long, slow stagnation of pay for the vast majority of people.
And this slide gets to the absolute core of the frustration. Your paycheck might have a bigger number on it today than it did back in 1979, sure, but what can you actually buy with it? For middle-wage workers, their hourly pay, in real terms, is up just 6%. But for low-wage workers, it's even worse. Their actual purchasing power, their ability to buy stuff, has actually gone down by 5%. They're working just as hard, if not harder, but their money is literally worth less.
And yet, the official story you hear from the headlines is often, well, completely different. You see things from major outlets and even the White House describing the economy with phrases like, a remarkable comeback. We hear that the American economy has, quote, left other rich countries in the dust. So on paper, everything looks great. But then, you see this, $1.12 trillion. That is the total U.S. credit card debt just in the first quarter of 2024. I mean, how can the economy be having a remarkable comeback when so many people are having to lean on high-interest debt just to get by? This number, right here, this is the disconnect made real.
And this table tells you exactly where people are feeling the most pain. Since just 2020, it's not the price of luxury goods that are soaring. No, it's the absolute essentials, the things you cannot live without. Car insurance is up 33%. Natural gas and electricity up by nearly 30%. Groceries are up 25%, rent up 20%. These are the bills you can't just decide to cut from your budget. You have to pay them, and they are climbing way, way faster than our paychecks.
Now, when people feel this kind of constant economic pressure, it doesn't just stay in their bank accounts. It doesn't stay quiet. It spills over. It becomes frustration, then anger, and, inevitably, it shows up in our politics. And this isn't just some theory. It is a pattern we are seeing play out in real time.
You can actually see this loss of faith in the data. Research from the Tony Blair Institute uncovered this really powerful trend. So since the year 2000, as inequality has gotten worse and the cost of living has gone up, the share of voters who support traditional mainstream parties has just plummeted. It went from 73% down to just 51%. People are clearly losing faith that the establishment has the answers.
And there's a very clear reason for that shift. It's not a mystery. Research from the Kiel Institute for the World Economy confirms it directly. Sudden economic shocks, like a big spike in inflation, directly boost the performance of extremist and populist parties. It makes perfect sense, right? When people are hurting financially, they become a lot more open to radical messages from leaders who promise to just tear the whole system down.
This really gets into the psychology of it all. As our personal finances get worse, we start looking for someone to blame. And in today's political climate, that blame gets directed very easily. Pew Research data shows that since 2000, the number of Democrats and Republicans who say they have a very unfavorable view of the other party has more than tripled. Our economic anxiety is pouring gasoline on the fire of our political polarization.
Okay, so the problem is clear. The stakes are incredibly high, but what about solutions? It's really easy to get lost in all the anxiety, but there are some very real, concrete ideas being debated right now that are aimed at tackling this crisis head-on.
So here's just a look at some of the blueprints being put forward by different think tanks. And we're not talking about small tweaks around the edges. These are big, structural ideas. Some of them focus on giving families direct support, like investing in public options for things like childcare and elder care. Others aim to rebalance the entire market, like using antitrust laws to fight corporate price fixing, or making the tax code more progressive. There are even ideas out there like negotiating a cap on basic grocery prices, something that's been tried in other countries. The common thread in all of these is using policy in a big way to reshape the economy so that it's more affordable for everyone.
And that really brings us to the final, crucial question. This was never just about economics. It's a question about the health of our society. The cost of living crisis is a major test, a test of our institutions, our politics, and our collective faith that the system can actually still work for regular people. And that's a question we all have to grapple with.